Hello, everybody. I'm Matt Ryan, and I'm joined with my co-host.
Bob Geis.
And today we're doing an Armchair Keepers of Arcane Secrets Masks of Nyarlathotep campaign recap.
That's right.
And if we
Session
had
one for me, session two for you.
session one for you, session two for me. If we had an echo effect, we could put the echo effect on recap.
That would be awesome. Recap.
It's actually not hard to do, but it would mean digging into an audio profile. And we are sworn to be lo-fi.
That sounds like way too much work.
Bob, as you just said, you've recently completed session one, and I've recently completed session two.
Yep.
So I've got a feeling we'll talk about yours first, then we'll flip over to mine.
Fantastic. Sure. Yeah, absolutely.
I have a feeling yours went great. Why don't you set the scene for us?
Right on. So yeah, we, the rough thing, Matt, was we got off to a little bit of a late start. We normally start at 6:30. And we didn't get started till right at 7, right? So, and we only play till 9, right? Because I'm old and I have to go sleep.
Okay.
So I knew we were cutting it really tight. So, and we had a lot to get done. But the good news is everyone came with their characters done, right? So we started off playing, and I did my thing where I had my buddy come in, play Jackson Elias, right? And,
yes.
He did the whole thing where, it was an ocean voyage from London to New York that all the players were on. They were just, and he happened to be just to sit down as Jackson Elias at the dinner table with them. And they all talked and they introduced their characters. They, a little bit about their backgrounds, why they were doing what they were doing. And this was set in 1921. Campaign starts in 1925, I believe.
That's right.
So it was a few years before, and so then they met Jackson Elias and they talked to Jackson Elias and they formed that relationship that would have been formed had I run the prologue, which I didn't do.
Which you got to.
Yeah, and it went great. So that happened.
Wait. I've got questions. I know you want to pour through.
No. Go ahead. Ask your questions.
So you start the clock at 7.
Yep.
How long does the hanging out with Jackson as part of the character introduction? That's pretty good thought.
Yep.
How long does this all take?
So, it's one of those deals where you have to kind of feel it out, right? I want to, as long as the conversation, the role playing is going, I'm not going to jump in and interfere. But once it starts to flag a little bit, that's when I jump in and say, okay, and end the scene. So it probably went on for maybe 20 minutes.
When did you introduce the Carlisle expedition?
Okay, so so then break that scene. Dave leaves the room, and then they go on about their lives, right? And then 1925 comes around, and they begin their thing again, right? And so it was at that point that I threw down the radio telegram, right? And and they read it, and this is interesting because you said it. I ran into the same problem you did, which was they ignored the Carlisle expedition. It was like I whited out that sentence about it, and they had so that was weird. They had no interest and no action whatsoever doing any sort of background research. Really strange. First time in running this campaign I've ever had anyone ignore that.
Did you use the nice props? Did you use HPLHS props?
Of course I did. Yeah, they're magnificent and, definitely not a fault of the prop. It was right there. But, they just ignored it. They just ignored it.
I think generally player characters don't care about NPCs.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I was surprised by it. I mean, normally it's just a thing that they run through and, but I don't know. We'll see what happens.
We'll see what happens because
that was it was a call to action, right? Assemble your team. Get ready for Jackson's, right? And so then I had Dave, my friend, who was in the other room, call one of my other friends, right? As Jackson Elias, because there's that phone call.
Yeah.
And so then he asked, come to Hotel Chelsea. Room 410, blah, 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 at 8 p.m., right? And so then they all get together. And so this is what I did. I'm very proud of this. Very proud.
It's quite the wind-up. Okay, come on. Hit me.
So out in the other room, Dave has set up the props in little batches, right? Because again, the props can be lost if people fiddle fart around, right? And then I had all of the players stand up and face the door to the game room, right? And at the very last minute, I grabbed a sticky note, right before they got here. I grabbed the sticky note, wrote 410 on my door, and said, okay, this is the door you're at, right? So literally, you're at the door to room 410.
Suddenly
we're
doing? LARPing. We're LARPing.
We do a little LARPy action, right? It's a little LARPy. And so, and then I have them all face the door as I'm putting on the low tech, the lo-fi headband, right?
So you're behind them in the room.
Yes. Screaming at them, don't look at me. Don't look at me. As I'm putting on the headband, right?
I love it. Go.
Then I have them go out and they see that Dave has used this prop axe, because I don't have a prop machete anymore. I used to, but I lost it somewhere. But this prop axe to kill himself and lie dead on the table there. He's dead. Oh my gosh. Jackson Elias, your friend, dead. Oh my gosh. And then I described the assailants. And then we returned back to the game room, right? And did the tabletop dice rolling of that combat.
Okay.
And it was really cool because, again, those guys have an opportunity to escape. They can escape with those clues, but my players instantly cut them off at the pass. They immediately went, because one was going out the window. They attacked the window immediately and cut that off. And then there was lots of bad rolling on my part and their part as this inept combat took place. One player did get macheted, right? Or I guess, is it panged? He got panged. And but they eventually, they took on the guys. They took on the guys and they took them out. So they got the clues. They got all the clues because they prevented anyone from escaping.
Now you wanted them to get all the clues.
It was one of those deals where I wanted them to get all the clues, but I provided an opportunity for them to miss out on the clues, right? But they prevented that from happening through their actions. So bully for them. But and then so the scene ended with that, them fleeing Hotel Chelsea with the one guy wounded. They ran into a cop because of some poor rules, but they kind of talked their way out of it, through better rules, right? So they did some good role playing there to explain away, hey, there's somebody up there, go up there. And so, I let them off easy, because I didn't want to have a whole arresty thing. That would not have been really where I was aiming to go.
Yeah. It's always problematic, I find, to bring authority in, either police or feds or everything, because nobody ever surrenders. Players never surrender to anything.
Yeah, it would have been a mess. So
it just
kind of a nod and a wink. They got away, and then they found some shady doc to treat the injury, and that is more or less where we left it, as they're in the doctor's place, having had the one guy been treated, and trying to figure out next steps. Which I'm hoping, again, I think it's going to be like your session that you're going to describe here in a moment, which is investigation.
Heavy investigation. And it's funny because my session picks up right there.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, wait, hang on. I'm getting a notice from Zoom. Thank you, Zoom. So my session picks up right there. Last time we had a player get hurt pretty bad.
Yep.
But we have a nurse in the group. So the nurse has got some pretty good medical chops.
Okay.
And I laid the Harlem map out. We've got another character who owns a business speakeasy in Harlem. So they're familiar with Harlem. So I laid the Harlem map out and I said, look, what do you want to do? You want to take him to a hospital? And they said, yes, let's take him to a hospital. And because now of my 8 players, 2 didn't show because of sickness and other obligation. And the one player that had a cold was actually the wounded investigator. So
nice.
It kind of worked out. So we could just sort of park that person off in a hospital.
Mm-hmm. That worked out great.
And then it was kind of I almost had to reintroduce the clues.
Yep.
So we sat around, we went around, we talked about the clues, we talked about what had happened, we talked about next steps.
Yep.
And then it was sort of heavy investigation.
Do you have a good note taker in your group?
I have a few, but they write so quickly that then when they reread their notes, it's like reading a mythos tome. They can't understand what they wrote.
Yeah, yeah. We only have one. I have one good note taker in the group. Again, I only had 4 players this time. That's another thing I forgot to say. One
Yeah.
of my players was out sick, so I was running short. But yeah, good to have a note
But
taker.
I'll remind them of
Yep,
clues. So
yep.
if they come across something, I will remind them. I will point things out. We started with reading the obituary again, not the
Okay.
obituary, the like, author murder, Jackson Elias murder. We
Yep.
started there. I informed them that the funeral was in a couple of days, and
Okay.
then they sort of talked about their various clues and their various ideas. And I'm keeping note cards, right? So here's one of my
Okay.
note cards.
Okay.
The red is, like post game, and the pencil is pre game.
Okay.
And I write down various avenues of investigation so that they hit them.
I see. I see.
And if they don't stumble across them, I can sort of slip them in a little bit.
Mm, okay.
But
Good.
there are some pretty obvious things. So there's banter, and
Mhm.
we start at 7:30 and end at 10:30.
Mhm. Mhm. Mhm.
Right. So, but it's a Friday night. We do it on a Friday night. So it's everybody's
Yep.
date night, right? But I keep my eye on the clock, and I pace things, and they wanted to do some things. They wanted to talk to the police. They wanted to
Yep.
follow up some of the very obvious leads. They wanted to go to the library, and we were able to do all that. And what I do is I sort of move around my table and I ask all of the players what they want their character to do. And then when we've gone all the way around the table and I end on Pete, it happened to be Pete there, then I just sort of in reverse order tell them what they found out.
Okay.
And right off the bat, they're splitting up. They're talking to everybody. They have no idea that they should keep what they know quiet.
Mhm.
They're
Mhm.
just very bold with their thoughts and their ideas.
Yep.
Which I think now I think a helpful solution to that is going to be this the innocent man character and the innocent man's character wife, so
Okay.
that I can clue them in how dangerous the situation is that they actually are in.
Mhm.
Um,
Yep.
if that makes any sense. But
No, it
then the
does.
other thing though is I thought, maybe I want New York to be a resounding success. Maybe I want them to be able to flop and stumble around
Mhm.
and still sort of easily defeat the cult.
I don't like the word easily.
What I found is there may be too many clues in that opening scene. Now I know that the original intent of the author was to let the characters go in any direction they wanted. So
Yep.
here's some clues if you want to go to
Yep.
wherever it is, England or Egypt or Nairobi or Shanghai. Like
Yep.
you can leap to any chapter, right? That was a design thought.
Yep.
At the table, there's lots of thread. So I've got somebody investigating the Penhew Foundation, which is okay. But then I've got another character that wants to investigate the Shanghai connection.
Yep.
All okay, but there's avenues in many different directions.
Yep. Yeah.
The Prospero House was pretty good. We went there. We got a
Okay.
lot of good clues about the Prospero House.
Yep.
Players love clues. There's just no two ways about it.
Oh yeah, they do. They love those clues. They love the props. Yep, for sure.
They
They chew
love
them up.
trying to think their way into it. They love the situation. Even players, I had a couple players that were tired and low energy. Even they had a good time.
Okay.
I
Yeah.
mean, I regularly check in with people. You guys having fun? Is
Yeah,
this
for
fun?
sure.
Yeah.
That sounds great, man. That sounds great. I think that it will sort itself out to a certain extent, right? Once they get through this initial thing, then they should begin to kind of gel and focus their activities on where they're at, which obviously is New York.
Yeah.
They have they visited and they haven't gone to Juju House yet.
They did.
They did.
The morning before
Oh my.
the morning before the funeral, I said, all right, it's snowing. You're going to Brooklyn, I think, or maybe it's Queens. I can't remember. And what's that morning look like? And some of them just said, I'm just hanging out and getting dressed. Some person, I want to make a phone call. We do that. Then I've got one character that wants to go to the Juju house and wants to drag another character. So I running the game knew nothing was going to happen because that happened at about 10:10, and I know the
yeah.
game's ending at 10:30.
Yep.
So it's just going to be creepy. It's going to be above board. They noticed I put spy winos out front.
Okay.
So as they walked into that corridor, they noticed that they're being watched. The shop is small. It's creepy. I make the guy. They don't even pick up that. Mostly, I ask questions about who they are and where they live.
Okay.
And they just say, and the one Harlem character, he says, do I recognize you from the neighborhood? Oh, I've got the speakeasy, Belle Dame, and it's over on whatever, 134th. So
Burn.
we've only got a couple minutes, Bob, and then this thing's
Okay.
end on us. I ended the session with the speakeasy in flames.
Ah,
I did.
I love it. I love it.
I did it for just to throw a little bit of an exciting cliffhanger there at the end. Well, I don't think that I'm going to burn it to the ground.
Okay. Okay.
I think I'm going to be like a Molotov cocktail or something thrown at the door. There's just going to be a little, but what I am going to do, I'm thinking, is having one of his nameless staff, because he will occasionally mention his, his bouncer or his barman. One of the staff will be gone.
Just gone.
Cannot find him. And then later on, when they're in the basement, one of the zombies
oh my gosh.
will be that missing barman or
fantastic. That's whatever. Beautiful. Love it. Love it.
We've got a minute in this. And then we're gonna see you next time, folks. But what's your advice for somebody that's like right where we are, running it early and at this point in the campaign, what's your advice?
Just let it play out. Don't panic about the stuff, right? The players will settle down. They will focus on New York, and then once they're done with New York, they will begin to plan. Because again, as they gather all this stuff, they're building more and more clues that's going to give them a foundation as to where to go next, and that will almost inevitably be London, right? I've run this a lot, and everybody always goes to London.
Yes. We have less than a minute, folks. So, Bob, do your begging quickly.
Please like and subscribe. Share this with all of your friends and your enemies. I don't care. We don't care. Hit that bell. Hit the subscribe. Yada
Love
yada.
You. Yes. Thanks, everybody. My advice would be to keep. It's like making bread. Just keep trying to fold things back in. They weren't interested in the Carlisle information, so the important bits, I just folded it back in. When they tried to, how do we find out how to talk to Erica? Well, then I folded in bits about Houston and the psychiatrist, fold it back in. Folks, we'll see you in a week.